Top of the motherfucking morning, guys. Good morning. If you've ever lived with insomnia, you know that having more than 6 hours of sleep is a goddamn blessing. My car broke down yesterday, so that's not a blessing, but that's okay. I walked here from my apartment complex, and you know, in today's topic of the video, well, I've yet to decide what that's going to be. So I'm gonna get that figured out, and then we're gonna get right into this video. First, let's grab some coffee. Today, we are going to be talking about the art of conversation. How conversation is basically about two things: building intrigue and using your curiosity. After you finish this video, you're going to be better at talking to people, and you're never going to run out of things to say, and you're going to be able to hold a really long and decent conversation. That's right, that's the one. This one. Bye-bye, Honda. Alrighty guys, so today's video is about the art of conversation. Now, it's funny because I don't have a degree, right? I don't have a lot of credentials, you can say, but there's one thing that I know I'm best at compared to a lot of people, and that is talking. That is just having a conversation. That could be sales, or that could be approaching. Having a skill with your words and being able to talk to people, persuade people, pays off more than you can know. And I'll give you an example. So my car broke down recently. I literally had to call maybe 15 to 20 random dealerships and try to find an arrangement. And finally I found a guy who was trustworthy, and at first he was a bit skeptical, but just being able to build rapport, convey exactly what my situation is like, convey how it would be beneficial to him to get the car, repair it, put it on auction, sell it, and have a win-win situation is so powerful. Social skills and having good banter will get you farther than you know. So I think the premise of all of this, and this is what I will always say, is you just have to start approaching. You have to be a social person in general. Alrighty guys, just do 100 reps of these. Good to go. So, the art of conversation. Number one, you have to be genuinely curious. So first off, I used to bartend. I talk to people all the time. I approach all the time. I'm actually a naturally curious person. When I meet somebody, old people, young people, doesn't matter. There's always something that makes me curious about them. I love to learn about people. I love psychology. What you want to do, and I learned this from my podcast, is you want to train yourself to be more curious. Now, this sounds like a side tangent, but it's not. This actually comes down to your dopamine. If you're spending all your time watching movies, watching porn, eating, very palatable foods, basically foods that spike your dopamine, if you're always on your phone, it's going to be very hard to be naturally curious. And what you'll find is this: when you walk up to somebody and you're genuinely curious, for example, the older person, he was like such a happy old dude. He reminded me of like an old grandpa in a movie. He had his dog with him in the Uber. He was like talking to his dog the whole time. I'm like, so many questions pop into my mind, like, where are you from? How old are you? What'd you do before you retire? How old is the dog? Just all these random questions. I want to know more about him. And it turns out he's a football coach. Oh, cool. Did you play in college? When you're naturally curious about someone and you're doing it in the right way, you're bringing them so much value, because people want to be seen. People want to be heard. So that is step number one. You have to be curious. You have to learn how to turn it on. The way I really found this was when I had my podcast and I would bring guests on. Afterwards, they would always tell me the same thing. They would be like, this was amazing. No one's ever asked me these questions. I shared, you brought a lot out of me that I didn't even realize was there. I really felt like I needed to talk about this. Caveat, here's a caveat to this. Some people will be closed off. Some people aren't going to trust your intentions. So another part of this is learning how to convey yourself in the right way and bringing people's guards down. Because some people, they're just a little bit like, why are you asking? Are you judging me? So you definitely have to have this vibe where you're kind of like nonchalant about everything. You're not judging people. You're just curious. And when they get the vibe that you're not judging, and that's key, that's when they're going to be comfortable with sharing a lot. So you have to have an open mind as well. You can't be judgmental. You can't make people feel uncomfortable, because that's how they shut down real quick. You're not going to get... Really quick, guys, message me on Instagram any questions you might have. I'll reply with a detailed voice note to try to help you out. I love hearing about people's problems so I can learn more. So message me that. I'm going to send you some stuff. All right, back to the motherfucking video. Breakfast of champions right here. 3 eggs, cayenne pepper, salt, 2 homemade tortillas. Alright, guys, this is gonna be real messy. Alrighty guys, so step number 3, reiterate what they say. So essentially it's this. When you're naturally curious and you ask about something and you're talking to them and they give an explanation, they tell a story, they tell you why they are the way they are, they tell you more about what you're curious about. In a conversation, there's a thing you do called paraphrasing, where essentially you reiterate what they just said. So let's give an example. For example, if you ask me, how did you get built? How did you get fit? I'm being conceited here. Let me be conceited. It's my video. You ask me how I got fit. I'm like, well, the number one thing I did was I started to work out early in the morning because I felt like I had more willpower. My workouts got better and I put more energy into it. And I noticed that throughout the day, it made me more active. So reiterating that, after I said that to someone, a good conversationalist would be like, oh, so all you did was shift your workouts to the morning. I'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I did. And now it's their turn. They can add on to that and they can say something, which leads me to actually step number 4, which is you want to build intrigue about yourself. Now, here's a key in conversation. You don't want to overshare or overtalk. In general, people aren't that good at listening. You want to give enough to build intrigue in a conversation, but you will notice this. If you're a good conversationalist, you're a good listener. I noticed this with my podcast. People usually don't like to listen as much as they like to talk. And you kind of gauge where they're at. Now, me personally, I'm a talker. I could literally talk for hours to anyone who's trying to listen. I love being around people who are good listeners because it's such a rare trait. It's very rare that I'll find someone who actually knows how to listen and have a good conversation. Most of the time, I'm the one asking the questions. I'm the one letting them talk, but I'll also share just enough, and I'll kind of gauge how interested they are. So let's get back to the conversational bit. First, I ask them how they got so fit. They answer, I reiterate what they just said, and now it's my turn to share something and add intrigue. So I'm gonna give an example. I could be like, you know what, that's interesting. I've noticed that whenever I work out late at night, it's so much less enjoyable. I never wanna actually be there, and it's always harder to get through. So I agree with you. So essentially what you want to do next is you want to tell a story, or you want to share something about yourself and say something that's related to what they just said or related to exactly what you guys were talking about. It shows, it connects the dots. Now there's a nice flow going. You're curious about something and you ask them about what you're curious about. They explain and they tell a story. You reiterate what they just said. You tell a story and build intrigue on what they just said. And now they can ask questions about what you said. It's a flow here. I hope that makes sense. But essentially, it's just using your curiosity and building intrigue. That is the premise of a good conversation. The next part is going to be another key ingredient to all of this. But first, I'm going to get to the restaurant. I'm going to get some food. And I'm going to, we'll get to it in a sec. Let me get to the restaurant. I'm walking. It's about a 10-minute walk. Luckily, it's not too far because I have no car. Hello. How are you? Got some salmon skin here. Dip it in there. This is Indonesian food? No? Chinese? The chefs back there are all Indonesian, and they are always cooking some good food back there. I'm getting fat because of this job, and I love it. Yeah, guys, just wait on it. Like I said, perks of running a restaurant. Unlimited free food. They also cook a lot of really great things back there. The only problem is a lot of it's fried, and what are you gonna do, right? But I am working out really hard right now. About to run 2 miles to the fight gym, train for about an hour, and then run 2 miles back. I'm pretty sure I can afford to eat a little bit of fried food, so that's what we're gonna do. Hey, I actually don't mind having my car break down. I'm actually kind of okay with it. I'm actually kind of happy it broke down. I know that sounds crazy, but let me tell you why. I wanted to sell the thing anyways, because I'm moving soon. I'm leaving the country forever, and this just gives me the perfect reason to do that and get that done. And secondly, it's forcing me to walk a lot, get sunlight, improve my health. GG. So this is where discipline is really help. It's actually, I just looked at the map, it's 2.5 miles there, so it's 5 miles total. But honestly, what the fuck else do I have to do? 1 mile in. Boys, it's hot as fuck out here. I'm not even gonna lie. Alrighty, boys, made it here. 2.5 miles later. So yeah, let's get this workout in. All right, boys, that was an intense MMA session. I was there for about 1:30. And now it's time to run home, but I figured I'd give you the last point, Art of Conversation vlog. And that is this, emotions versus logic. Now let me explain that. First, I'm gonna get to a more quiet place. So the secret to connecting with people is harnessing the power of your emotions. Now, of course, in a conversation, you can't just be a complete clown, but there is a reason why the person who is really funny and just fun to be around and knows how to use his emotions has a lot of girls, has a lot of friends, and is just popular overall. Now, when I say good with emotions, I mean good at reading them too. Good at being able to tell when someone feels uncomfortable, knowing how to deal with that. Basically, you just acknowledge it. That's one way to deal with when someone's feeling uncomfortable or when someone's angry. You just get good at acknowledging how people feel. And then people see you're good at reading social cues and reading emotions and feeling emotions. You're not just stuck in your head, and you're more considerate of how people feel. Now, in conversation, I try to avoid questions like, what do you do? Where are you from? And I try to be less logical, depending on who I'm talking to, actually. If I'm talking to one of my male friends, I'm gonna be way more logical. If I'm talking to one of my female friends, way less logical. You get the point. So if I'm talking with my brother, for example, he is one of the most logical people I know. He's very smart. And I'm able to have hyper-logical conversations, talk about business. I'm able to talk about poker. But if I'm meeting a random person, for the most part, I'm good at reading people. For the most part, I'm going to see where they're at. And most of the time, 80 or 90% of people are more emotional. People want to feel good. You want to make people feel good. You want to be able to give a compliment and add emotion to it. For example, I love complimenting girls whenever I walk up and approach a girl. For some reason, depending on how I say it, will determine how they react. Let me show you what I mean. If I walk up and I'm like, hey, I thought you were cute. What's your name? Kind of like no emotion behind it, just like bland. They'll be thanks. And they'll kind of think that I have an agenda, like why is he telling me that? You know, it's not believable. Instead, I like to do this. Oh my God, I think you're absolutely gorgeous. What is your name? It is so much emotion that it gives them a spike, you know, a spike of emotions, and they feel good because of it. Learning how to tap into that side of yourself, powerful. And it really just comes with doing a lot of approaches because you have to get out of your head. The more approaches you do, the more exposure you have to social situations, the more you're gonna be loose and you're not gonna overthink things as much. Guys, I hope this all makes sense, but that is the video. I have about 1.5 miles to go. I hope you guys have an amazing day or night wherever you are. See you next time. Peace.